We're running it back mostly because it's very, very important. This is very important, guys. Critical importance of vitamin D. Make sure you know the signs of vitamin D deficiency, okay? It's something that is very important, and it's very difficult to get, especially as the sun starts going down a little bit earlier than it did the last time that we touched on this subject, but I think that was maybe in conjunction with vitamin K2, but vitamin D always deserves to be talked about. The importance of maintaining optimal levels of vitamin D can't be overstated. Absolutely, vitamin D regulates the expression of hundreds of genes and is integral to biological functions that affect every bodily system. Just like many other vitamins out there. Don't think that it's special or anything. It is important, but not having enough of it is highly detrimental. Vitamin D insufficiency or deficiency can trigger several generalized symptoms that you may have associated with other health conditions. It's also called the sunshine vitamin, since your skin makes vitamin D when exposed to ultraviolet light from the sun. Vitamin D performs many functions within the body, including maintaining adequate levels of calcium and phosphate. Yes, so in tandem with proper electrolyte acquisition through natural diet or through supplementation, vitamin D should not be ignored as well. Essential for normal bone mineralization. It helps reduce inflammation, which is necessary for the modulation of cell growth and immune function. Vitamin D also affects genes that help regulate cell differentiation and apoptosis. The death and the replenishment of the genes in the cells that are within your body. It's important, and if it isn't properly done within your body, then that's what creates the free radical cells that cause so much damage that you've obviously more than likely heard of. The main indicator of vitamin D level is 25-hydroxyvitamin D, 25-OHD. Data collected from a National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey in 2005 and 6 showed the deficiency prevalence of 41.6% of the United States population. However, as discussed later in this article, as many as 80% of people may be deficient in vitamin D. Wow, what has changed so much between 2005 and 2006? I wonder what that could be. Staying inside all the time, mostly because you have to. I would imagine so. It's important to note how the measurement of insufficiency and deficiency is defined depending on the serum concentrations used. Some researchers use a level of 20 nanomilligrams per milliliter or 50 nanomoles per liter. The nanograms per milliliter is used most frequently in the United States, and the nanomoles per liter is a standard in Europe. Grassroots Nutritional Health Institute recommends vitamin D serum concentration levels from 40 nanograms per milliliter to 60 nanograms per milliliter, or 100 to 150. The number of people who are likely deficient in vitamin D would be significantly higher if you use the upper level of measurement. Signs of deficiency: aching muscles. Nearly half of adults have affected muscle pain. Researchers believe that most adults are deficient in vitamin D. Some studies have suggested the nerves have vitamin D receptors that affect the perception of pain. In one animal study, researchers demonstrated a vitamin D deficient diet can help deep muscle hypersensitivity that was not connected to low levels of calcium. Very interesting. Painful bones. My muscles hurt and my bones hurt. For the reasons of, calcification and proper maintenance of the bones, which we discussed earlier when it was used in conjunction with calcium and phosphate. Fatigue. Again, these are seeming to be very, very general side effects or very, very general signs of deficiency. But again, if you're experiencing any of this stuff and you don't think that you get enough sunlight because you do need a significant amount for your body to naturally produce it, supplementation is always an option. Common symptom for a variety of health conditions, including sleep deprivation. And again, if you're getting enough sleep but you don't feel rested, perhaps vitamin D. Perhaps. In one study using 174 adults with fatigue and stable medical conditions, researchers found 77.2% were deficient in vitamin D. After significantly normalizing the levels, the fatigue symptoms improved significantly. Imagine that. Reduced muscle performance. If you aren't as strong as you normally should be or normally are, and everything else that you can think of, your diet's up to snuff, you're sleeping enough at night. If you're also noticing that your muscles, if you're a regular exercise enthusiast are hurting or feeling a little bit more fatigued than usual, perhaps you're not being able to access all the strength gains that you would normally have, so that would make a lot of sense. Brain health. If you're feeling especially stupid some days, okay, if you're feeling a little bit down, that's why, it was one of those old heuristics. You'll always just feel better if you just go outside. Well, that's mostly because you're replenishing your vitamin D. Vitamin D is essential for your brain health. Symptoms of deficiency can include dementia. What? Caused by an increase of soluble and insoluble beta amyloid, a factor in Alzheimer's disease. Research has also found an association with depression, which may be associated with the function of vitamin D buffering high levels of calcium in the brain. Yeah, having an excess of calcium in your body is not good for a variety of reasons, that among many. Vitamin D deficiency in pregnant women, can increase the risk of autism and schizophrenic-like disorders in the baby. That's interesting. One study of people with fibromyalgia found a vitamin D deficiency is more common in those who have anxiety and depression. Another looked at vitamin D deficiency in obese subjects and found a relationship between low levels of vitamin D and depression. Poor sleep. Again, if you're fatigued and you're not sleeping well, obviously, poor sleep might be an issue. It also might be a bunch of other things, and the reason why we covered electrolytes not that long ago is because getting those in order as well will also help with poor sleep. But again, if you're vitamin D deficient, your sleep quality is going to be a little bit off as well. So again, vitamin D is incredibly important, and it does a lot of stuff. Most of the stuff you might not know. A sweaty head, so now if you're just a total wreck at this point, if you're not as strong as you are, all your muscles and your bones hurt, and you're not sleeping well, and you're fatigued all the time, and then you're starting to get a sweaty head, and you're losing your hair. It's just a terrible thing. Slow healing wounds. Now, if you're so depressed and you just decide to take up cutting and then things just leak forever, it's just terrible. Vitamin D promotes wound healing, and the creation of calcicinidin, a peptide that fights wound infections. And vitamin D sure is important, hey guys? Dizziness, heart problems, excessive weight, recurring infections, reduced cognitive function. 80% of people with COVID-19 are deficient in vitamin D. Another reason why I just want to bang on about this subject, okay? Because it's going on, whether you like it or not, okay? If you haven't got it, more than likely you're going to get it. So you should be best prepared for whatever's going to be facing you in the future, or to stave it off again. Vitamin D plays an important role in the development and severity of many diseases. This is why, from the very beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, this author suspected that optimizing vitamin D levels would significantly lower the incidence of infection and death in the general population. Since then, mounting evidence had revealed that higher levels of vitamin D may reduce the rate of positive tests, hospitalizations, and mortality related to the infection. One study released in late 2020 assessed the serum 25-OHD, the one that we talked about earlier, levels of patients hospitalized with COVID-19 to elevate the influence that may have the severity of the disease. The researchers found 82.2% of those with COVID-19 were vitamin D deficient, lower levels than 20 nanograms per milliliter. Interestingly, they also found that those who were deficient had a greater prevalence of cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high iron levels, and longer hospital stays. A second study found similar results for people who have tested positive for the COOF. In another study published in August of 2021. So see, at least this is getting full studies. The American Journal of Physiology, Endocrinology, and Metabolism showed data that the vitamin's metabolites can inhibit replication and expansion of SARS-CoV-2. Interesting. It's important to remember the data showing people who are deficient in vitamin D have a higher risk of severe disease in general was available long before the COVID-19 pandemic. Vitamins that boost vitamin D3. That's the most generally available. That's the one that you'll most likely find if you decide to properly supplement with it. It is important to take vitamin K2, Mark 7, and magnesium with your vitamin D3 supplement, all of which are a part of my supplementation regimen. Both play an important role in your overall health and the bioavailability and application of vitamin D in your body. If you're not using magnesium and vitamin K2, you need 2.5 times more vitamin D, a discovery made by Grassroots Health, in the D Action Project suite. In this project, more than 10,000 individuals have provided information about supplementation use and overall health status to Grassroots Health since they began conducting large-scale population-based nutrient research in 2007. The information has led to the recommendation that vitamin D blood levels between 40 nanograms per milliliter and 60 nanograms per milliliter are safe, effective, and lower overall disease incidence and healthcare costs, as reported by Grassroots Health from their data. 244% more supplemental vitamin D was needed for 50% of the population to achieve the 40 nanograms per milliliter. For those not taking supplemental magnesium or vitamin K compared to those who usually took the supplementation of magnesium and vitamin K. In practical terms, it means when you take vitamin K2 and magnesium with vitamin D, you need far less vitamin D to achieve a healthy life. But again, if you're deficient in vitamin D, don't just rely on K2 and magnesium. All of this stuff makes for a healthy body, a body that can stave off disease, a body that can stay perfectly rested, and a body that can be as strong as you possibly can get it. And with that said, guys, I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.